What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Live Beyond Average podcast
and
here.
the Perform Right podcast we got rolling.
The Perform Right podcast, exactly. So me and Austin do a ton of podcasts together.
Yes.
And so he has his own podcast over on his business, the Perform Right.
Yep.
He does a ton of coaching. Big specialty with him is his nutrition. He is an expert at that, and then does a ton of programming for a lot of different lifters, competition athletes, as well as power lifters, stage competitors, things like that, and not a lot of just generic population too.
And just general health. And that's why Jordan and I like doing these podcasts together, because we actually have a lot of similar ways that we like to approach our coaching.
Right.
Jordan works with a lot of athletes, especially people getting ready for the Huns, as a lot of you already know, but for people listening on the Perform Right podcast may not know.
Right.
And so we started doing these together a little bit because we just tend to have a lot of similar things that we want to get out, and we have, I think, the same way on how we want to go about helping people. So
right, we feed off each other really well.
Yeah.
We come into a lot of these podcasts with a theme that we know we're going to talk about. We got a nice jet flying by right now. So we got a theme that we want to talk about, but we actually don't talk about what is on each other's mind, because we like to feed off each other that way.
Yeah.
We have very similar mindsets in the way we want to live our lives, but we still have different mindsets some ways on how we approach our training and our nutrition, which is awesome because we get to challenge each other with that. And my clients get to benefit from him, and his clients get to benefit from me.
For sure.
So it's a great tandem, a great team we have here. So today, Austin, tell everybody a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, so our topic today is, let me backtrack here for a second. Jordan and I talk a lot about success and trying to always be successful in whatever it is that you do and not create a lot of excuses. However, something that we both have noticed that we haven't addressed is failure. So today's topic is, how do you respond to failure? And Jordan, I think it's a great question and a great time to be asking this because, the previous one that we did together, we talked about excuse land. And we have some events coming up, we have hunts coming up, we have Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. And it just seems like all of these times, people get approached by failure. Maybe it's because they're living on excuse land, or maybe because it's a legitimate reason. But failure tends to happen frequently during these next few months.
Yeah.
And so I like this topic. I'm excited about this topic because I just think a lot of people can relate to this. So I mean, Jordan, how do you respond to failure?
Yeah, and definitely something, if I look back at even when I was young, and in growing up as an athlete, as a basketball player, as a track runner, failure in team sports and individual sport was extremely common, right? You lose games, you don't place first in a race, a lot of things like that. So as an athlete growing up, failure was a common thing, and so especially with basketball, when you miss shots, it's a very common thing. And so I was very lucky to have great coaching when I was younger from my shooting coach, Jay Wolf out of Hudson, Wisconsin. And then my dad was a great mental aspect. So lucky to have two guys like that, especially my dad on a day-to-day basis, who coached me through that, because naturally I'm a perfectionist and absolutely hate failure. I'd rather put my hand through a wall when I was younger, when I would miss shots or lose or something like that, because I wanted to win so bad. And so for me, I really had to learn, it was the process of learning how to accept failure in the sense of using it as that path, as that driving force to work harder to get a win. And so, I actually learned to really like losing over the years.
Yeah.
Because when I'm losing or when things are not going my way is usually when I'm actually at my best.
That's a good point.
And it's kind of weird. And it took me years and years to become self-aware enough to realize this. It was a learned process because I really never had anybody tell me that. It was just one of those things I figured out on my own after it happened multiple times, and it really came to me as I became a business owner. And so when I started getting to those points, if you run your own business, you know that it is like this on a weekly basis. You hit something awesome, and you hit peaks and valleys in same days.
Yes.
And so it's a huge emotional roller coaster. And so after multiple times of being up and being down in the bottoms, I really started to figure out that, dude, actually I work a lot harder and I'm a lot more driven and I get a lot more done when I'm not where I want to be. And it's like a drastic point where I'm not where I want to be.
Absolutely.
And so I have to be pretty unhappy. And so something's happening, I'm not where I'm at with my business, not accomplishing what I want to accomplish, and usually my game really increases. So for me, answering your question, it is that big sense of knowing I'm not where I want to be and knowing the difference between being disappointed and depressed about something,
Right.
and taking that disappointment and using it for myself.
Absolutely.
Flip the script. Flip the script and use it for yourself. Because when you're using the stuff that's supposed to go against you for you, dude, that's when you're becoming dangerous.
I like how you said that. So I would say, like, I think because that was a phenomenal answer. I think one big takeaway, at least one take from that, for the viewers and the listeners would be to, and you said it really well, accept and almost welcome failure. Because we talk about failure, and we can go and we can talk about how to motivate people through failure, but I think one thing a lot of people do, especially from like a motivational speaking standpoint, I think people tend to forget how to apply what is being discussed. And you gave us a really good point number one, and that is to welcome failure. I can relate as well with sports. I was a wrestler, and if you lost, there was no team. You lost in front of a crowd
Yep.
by yourself, and it is one of the most embarrassing, uncomfortable things. And so you have two choices. You can accept defeat and quit and just find something else, or you
Right.
can welcome that failure. Because anytime if I was to ever lose a match, I would watch video and figure out why I lost, practice it for the next week until the upcoming match, and then make sure it didn't happen again. And then I would usually overcome that and things would start to turn around. So I, like you, would also welcome failure. Same thing from like when I first got into fitness and coaching and doing all those things, I would see a lot of clients that have had failure in the past, and I would try to find ways to help them overcome that failure by welcoming it, you know. And when I say welcome it from like a fitness standpoint, there's people that they're like, I've failed at all these diets, I've failed at all these things. Why did you fail? You need to welcome that failure by admitting why you're failing. Is it lack of accountability? Is it lack of whatever? So you need to welcome that failure if it's something with your fitness goals or whatever. And I think that's a huge takeaway. And I really like how you just said, like, you just have to own it and welcome failure.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that step one, and you really said it in a different sense, the fact of admitting it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just got to be open and real with yourself and cut the crap, and just know and understand, hey, either I did this wrong, I failed to do X, Y, Z,
Yep.
or maybe things just didn't work out at that time for you.
Yeah.
There's tons of different variables, but accepting it is much needed in order for you to take the next steps for your next journey.
Exactly.
And so, you know, let's go into the next point then, Austin. I mean, where, for you have a ton of experience, a decade of coaching here. You know, you've seen tons of clients succeed, but it's obviously very common in the nutrition world. People fall off the bandwagon every day.
So I think point two is after you have welcomed and admitted and accepted the failure is, and we've talked about this a lot with Run the Gun, and I'm going to use it because it applies right now, is trust and enjoy the process.
Our season 2 mantra, dude, enjoy the process, love the journey, right?
That needs to be the part, because if you're failing at something and you don't trust or enjoy the process, you're going to be in a vicious hamster wheel and just keep spinning, and you're not going to go anywhere. So step one is accepting and admitting that failure and that it's real and it's present. But two, now that you have accepted that, if you're in this journey, whatever it is, you need to enjoy that process and trust the process. Whether you have a coach, you need to trust that process, or whether you're doing something on it, you have to trust the process is long-term, and you have to enjoy that even with the failures, because
Better fall in love with it.
Yeah.
In a prime example of this, you know, like we say, we like to stay in our lane of information. You know, let's look at the amount of fitness competitors. This is a great example. I love the dedication fitness competitors put forth to step on stage at such a low body fat, the dedication it takes to do that. But I love seeing the competitors who 3 months after, 4 months after, still look in phenomenal shape.
Absolutely.
A healthy shape, and didn't rebound with an excessive amount of body fat.
Yep.
Because what did they do? The people who did that, they enjoy the process, love the journey, up until the point of stage and after stage. It's very, very challenging for people when they have a goal date or a goal, maybe not even just a date, maybe it's just a goal that is attainable that you accomplish someday, whether it be the amount of money you make or a business being successful, that they look forward so much to that day or that date that they don't know what to do after.
Right, they get lost almost.
They get lost. It's done. You're like, oh, well, I'm here.
Right.
Now what?
Exactly.
So I part of this whole thing is just like, you just love the day to day. Love that grind of just working. Like, back when we started Run to Gun way back when we had the TV show, we talked about, dude, we want to get this on national TV. Like, I want to get this on national TV so bad.
Yep.
And we had it on national TV by season 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it's cool. It's cool to say it.
Right.
But I was like, well, I freaking strived for this for 3.5 years. Like, it really wasn't as cool as I thought. Like,
right.
It was such a big goal, but it was because it was to please other people.
Right.
It really had nothing to, it was to say I could get it on a national TV show.
Yep.
Dude, I pulled it off national TV by season 5. I didn't care one bit about it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it really made me realize and believe what I was actually preaching in the enjoy the process of the mantra journey. You really have to believe it. You can't just say it.
I think you even brought up a third point, and you talked about that you were doing it to please other people. So to kind of go back, I think point 1 is accepting and welcoming failure.
Okay.
Point 2 is enjoying the process and loving the journey. And step 3 is asking the question and answering it yourself is, who are you doing this for? Are you on this journey for somebody else, or is this for you?
Truly for you.
Because, I think if you ask that question and answer it, that could help you with those first 2 points earlier.
It'll make a difference in those first 2 points.
Yeah.
Step 3 will make a difference when you realize who you're doing it for. Will make a difference in your step 1 and 2.
Yeah, I agree.
Big time. It'll make a difference whether you carry through with them, understand them to the fullest.
Yeah, and so being able to apply all 3 of these is really, I think, how you and I both seemingly approach failure when it happens. And I would be very confident with people watching and listening that they have almost all 3 of those issues when being coached with failure. And so the question is what are they going to do about it?
Well, yeah, agreed. And the response and how we respond to failure is such an important factor to our day-to-day lives, because we can find failure ourselves in our own doings every minute of every day.
Agreed.
And it's very easy for us to get down on ourselves on that. And usually the inhibitor to your success is usually yourself.
Yep.
Because truly, nobody else really cares what you're doing and if you're succeeding or failing.
That's a good point.
Because they're worried about their own succeeding and failing.
Yes.
And so, when you can figure out how to respond properly to failure and how, it's tough. It's tough to respond properly, but you got to stop caring, which goes back, right out that step number 3.
Yes.
You got to stop caring and start doing it for yourself. Start enjoying the process and loving the journey, which is step 2.
And then welcoming the failure.
And welcoming every single failure, every single loss.
Yes.
And turning it around, flipping that script, using it for yourself, right?
Absolutely.
To dig back out and to get the next win.
Yes.
To be successful.
100%.
Failure's a way bigger part of our everyday life than success. And you can listen to motivational speaking, you can listen to all these different things every single day that have to do with success, have to do with inspiration, have to do with motivation.
Yep.
But it doesn't make any difference if you don't know how to respond to failing, because there's going to be 100 failures leading up to your big success.
Yeah, how many times do you listen to a motivational video or whatever, and failure approaches itself the next day or even that day? Does it crush people instantly, or are you actually applying what you're listening to?
Dude.
So,
yeah, you gotta dig deep, man.
You do.
It's such a mental game. There's nothing physical about it. We talk about our physical shape. We train and we utilize that as our platform, but 98% of what we do has little to do with our physical.
Exactly.
It has such a big amount to do with our mental preparation and our mental response to those failures, and the mental response when you succeed. Mm-hmm. Are you going to stop working at that point then, or are you going to use it to grind more.
Right.
Failure's huge, guys. Start loving it. Right?
Yeah. Enjoy it, welcome it, and
Figure out why you're doing it.
yeah.
So there's the podcast today, you guys. I hope you love joining Austin Kiergaard of the Perform Right podcast and myself. You can find both of our podcasts on iTunes. If you love it, please leave us a review. Those things help us out.
Yes,
Leave us a review.
absolutely.
Give us a rating. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this helped you guys today. If it did, share it with someone you know.
Go apply it. Thanks, guys.